Hello, good morning. Another Mugs and Morning. Happy Friday. All right, I see you here, Olivia. You are on it. Let's see. I'm waiting for your request to join, and then we will get started. Or I could invite you, actually. Cool. Just accepted it. I hear you. Hello.
Hello, hello.
So nice to see you.
Yay, likewise.
It's kind of wild when I jump onto these calls and it's like people I see in real life but haven't seen in a while. It's like, oh, it is really nice to be face to face. So, hi.
Hello. Oh,
You good?
I want to try flipping it upside down. I don't know how that's gonna. Will it work? No.
We could try.
I just want to see if my phone will adjust. Nope.
Oh, like let it. Yeah, it doesn't let it like rotate sideways
Okay.
or any other way but up and down. Is that how you have it now?
Yeah.
I know. Tech
I'll
issues.
position for it.
Okay, go ahead. Take a second. Get set up.
Let's see. I mean, this might have to be it. Just try and stay as still as possible. There we go.
Okay. I have you on like this fancy ring light. I actually got it for free, but it
Oh.
is like so wonky that if I touch it, you see the shake. Like,
Uh-huh.
so it's all good. We're doing the best we can. Whatever works. If you need to readjust in the middle, it's really cool.
Sure.
All right, cool. Um, you ready to get started?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. I always give the disclaimer that I have my computer to the left because there's no way I could remember the questions that I'm going to ask, and this just helps me stay organized. So I'm not looking away. I promise I'm still thinking about everything we're doing. Why don't we start off? I know about you, but let's let anyone listening know about yourself and just how you're connected to the neurodiversity community.
All right. Hello. So I have a sister with autism spectrum disorder, and she received her diagnosis after a slew of diagnoses, PDD, global developmental delay. It was, I think, a huge hardship on my parents until they finally got her autism diagnosis. So that journey was kind of our whole family's journey. And I've been just involved with so many activities and sports, and in any way I could, I supported my sister and their neurodivergent community growing up. And then into college, I was able to open a Special Olympics branch for swimming in La Jolla. And that was just like a continuation of spark of joy in my life. And soon after college, I found ABA, and it was something that I did not know existed because my sister did not have these kinds of services. Growing up, I would go to her OT and SLP therapies, and we would drive hours to, attend to those things. But yeah, ABA, it was something so refreshing and new for me at the time because I was able to go into people's homes, and it wasn't this burden on the family to, get where they needed to go or sit through hours of traffic. It was so different because I was the one traveling to them, and I have been an ABA now for 10 years. And I just finished my master's,
Woo!
thank you, as well as starting an advocacy in special education consultation business. So
I love it
yeah.
so much. I forget, are you from San Diego originally?
No, originally Hawaii.
Oh, okay. I definitely didn't know that about you.
Oh,
Awesome.
we moved to Colorado in the 90s at some point. So I've
Okay.
been in San Diego the longest now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely appreciate you hitting on the aspect of your family having to drive everywhere. I do think that's a huge burden. I think, there's pros to having a set spot that therapy happens and like just having equipment and tools and all that. But I also think there's a benefit of, like you're saying, taking that demand away from the family,
Mhm.
and like the extra stress. So key point on that. I love I don't think I knew. I maybe have read in your most recent San Diego Voyager article that you did the Special Olympics swimming, like just so much. Again, like for those of you that don't know, Olivia and I worked together for a bit, and I guess just in the work world, we know each other in that context, and we flow in that context. But learning all this, the history and everything else, was really cool. So thank you for everything you do for the community. That's really awesome. There's another question I was going to ask in there. Oh, is your sister older or younger than you?
She's younger. We're
Okay.
only like a year apart, so super
Okay.
close. We butted heads. She is non-speaking, so she communicates via written language, and
Hmm.
she's also like fiercely independent. She's 30 now, so it's kind of, if I want to bring up something with her, it's kind of like, Toria, no, we're having this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's good. You step into that big sister role, even if it is just a year. That's why I asked, there's like that
Yeah,
protective role of like, I'm your big sister, like I got you.
yeah.
I think that could go the same way as a younger sibling, but it's a little different. There's more ownership as the older sibling. So kudos to you for taking that on. I can't speak. I'm a younger sibling, and my brother
Oh,
does all that for me, but I love it. So cool. All right. So you mentioned Base Camp Advocacy, and how'd you end up in that realm? Like, what experiences did you have that made you realize that there was a gap and there was a need for it? Because once I heard you were doing that, I was like, yes, like I have so many families, and so it's just like something that I always feel I can't tackle as an OT, and I never knew really where to go. So tell us
mhm.
more about that.
Yeah. I think originally my thought was just the shock at, um, as supervisor in ABA, I would attend the IEP meetings as like a consultation to the family and to the school. If the school allowed for us to be in the meeting, I would attend the meeting and just demonstrate how we were supporting in the home environment, clinic, community, and if there was any possibility of consistency or carryover, then hopefully the school is open to collaborating.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea that there wasn't that open-mindedness to collaborate. For a lot of schools and a lot of IEPs I attended, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, we hear what you have to say, but it's just not going to work with what we've got. And especially diving into more the past like 5+ years of how can we push self-advocacy and self-determination the most? How can that be on the forefront of all of our minds when supporting individuals with their goals for growth? And how does that translate into every environment in their life? And they spend so much time at school, this seems like the most prevalent place to work on those things. And, you know, even just the access to be able to self-determine, I want to work on this. This isn't serving me. I choose something different. That's huge, and that's not necessarily afforded across San Diego, even and beyond. And here in San Diego, we have so many resources, and it just seems like we have the most, and we should be able to do the most with that. So I also took inspiration from my mom. She's been in special education for 30+ years now, and she was kind of that squeaky wheel. And I think it was, because of my sister. She knew what parents wanted, and she knew what to ask for in a way that it would be, less of a roadblock or less of a conflict or seen as less so that she was able to like sneak in there and get things done for her students. And I was like, I think I can do the same. I think a lot of this is just education and supporting, um, you know, older educators or people who have been in education for decades now, and seeing that this is what progression looks like for the neurodiverse community and those who need the most support. So I thought, yeah, I could help fill this gap, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, I love that you're highlighting that it's like how your mom approached advocacy. And I think sometimes advocacy, like just that word or advocate in the IEP meeting, I've worked in public school systems, and one of the first things, like, I got even trained, I wouldn't even call it trained, but informed on was like, oh, there's an advocate on this case. And it's like, it has such like a negative connotation when really, if you just step back, it's not like we're all here to do what's best for this student, right? Like, that's why we're all in these professions. But when it comes to, like, when you get in that mindset of like, oh, we're going head to head and we're against each other, it's like, where did that even start? It's, everyone is in the profession for like the good-hearted reasons. I just think the bigger systemic challenges, whether it's funding or just like old outdated mindsets, like you're saying, like everything needs to progress. We all need to evolve and learn as we go. I'm loving seeing everyone join. Is so huge. And I think that's like a total knowing you as a human and knowing your work and like just your website, everything about like the things you share are exactly in line like that with that. It's, I'm here to advocate and support for not what I think is right and not against what you think is right. It's what's best for the individual. Like that's what we're all here for. So I'm really happy you highlighted that. And I think it's something that I've heard multiple times, like in different like seminars or just speaking with different families. You could tell what a family has had in their experiences in the IEP process, right? Like they can respond and be like, oh, the IEP, like, yeah, we're just fighting, 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 and just like that terminology around it versus someone that came at it from a lens like you're sharing with your mom, like this is still really, really upping hard work, but
Yeah.
we're coming at it from a lens of like, how can I get in there? How can I like reignite the reason those people behind that have the power to make the change? Like, why did they start in this role in the first place? And how do I connect with them on a human level to then make bigger change?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's like probably the biggest piece that I hope to accomplish is like a renewed sense of collaboration. I'm sure there are so many families and educators who are jaded by the whole process, and they have these meetings constantly, and it can seem like you take away from the individual because of that. So I hope to just offer like a fresh perspective. Everything is open for collaboration. Everything must be in the focus of the individual and pushing for that self-determination piece, because I think that is just of the school goals we've seen, that is the most lacking.
yeah. Yeah, and I would even say in clinic-based models, like outpatient, that's where I spent a lot of my time. Like I said, I worked in the schools for 3 years, but then after that, it was all clinic. And it still is very clinician driven, with a little more touch of parent driven, just because you have more face time with the parents in that kind of setting. Um, but especially as individuals get older, into teens and adulthood, like we ask, neurotypical people, what sports do you want to play? What classes do you want to enroll in? How do you want to feed your mind? And without accessing that for our neurodivergent clients, it's just such a huge disservice. So,
Mhm.
yes, love it all. Hello, everyone. I love seeing all your faces on here.
So cool.
It's like a reunion, and I'm here for it.
Yeah.
It's so great. All right, let's move on. We're going to shift gears a little bit. Um, Actually, I'm going to skip to question number 4. I don't know if you have the questions in front of you. And then I'm going to shift gears. Okay. So what is your biggest tip for a family or parents beginning their journey in the IEP process? Like those early years on and it feeling really overwhelming, maybe having people in their ear saying like, oh, it's a brutal process, and just like, how do you set them up for success?
Yeah. I think, I don't know if it's like my biggest tip, but the one that comes to mind, treat your education the same as you would a medical opinion. You know, seek multiple opinions or resources before just taking the first thing you hear and running with it. There are so many avenues and so many ways to go about accomplishing what your hopes are for your child or maybe your teen, or if they're in transition, their adulthood and their future. Um, so don't necessarily hang on one person's guidance. Seek multiple, opportunities and listen to multiple perspectives, other parents, advocates, lawyers, practitioners, like whoever you can talk to about that process. Start opening doors for yourself.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of people also forget about that in the medical realm too.
Yeah.
I know you and I are very like, let's shop around, let's like, but people forget like you are hiring that medical professional or that provider, that advocate. It's not just because your insurance like connected you with them or something. So I think it's just like a mindset shift in every realm of like services. So that's huge. And then I love the whole like I'm all about gathering perspectives and then finding what feels right for you and your child or your adult child's goals and path and all of that. So great tip. Good reminder. Okay, now we're going to shift gears to a little more
Sure.
personal stuff. I was sitting here writing these questions. I'm like, what do I think about when I think of Olivia? Advocacy, autism, like all the greatness that you do in your work. But then I don't know if everyone that listens to this will know, but you are like a kick-ass slackliner. So I remember when we first met, I think like one of our first conversations was around the slackline in a clinic setting. And I was like, how do I use this thing? Like, help me out. And that's how I discovered all this cool stuff you do. So um, tell us a little more about that. And then the second piece to like share with our listeners is where you feel fearful at first and any tips on like having courage in that, because that stuff is no joke.
Yeah. So I think my first introduction to slacklining was through my cousins. I was 8 years old and I thought they looked ridiculous. I thought it was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. I'd never had a hobby or activity like it. And I just grew up around it thereafter. Turns out that my cousins were into base jumping and a lot of the niche sports that are not safe. So I also had a pretty successful 15-year swimming career, which left me with very loose joints and a lot of overuse injuries. Slacklining became something that I found was a huge strengthener in my body and a tool that I used as like a supplementation for climbing, because I also got really into rock climbing after swimming. And there's a lot of falling in rock climbing. The kinds of falling that you did in slacklining were kind of more detrimental. I ended up spraining my ankles multiple times. So that's why I wanted to highline. And that's, I think, probably what I talked most about back in the day because I was obsessed with it. But
I don't blame you.
Between two cliffs or like high up, over 50 feet or 60 feet, whatever the like fall height is.
Okay.
For more like fatal.
Jeez.
And I did it because I was like, there's no way I can hurt my ankles. This is like the greatest thing ever. I am so safe. I'm just falling into air. And I think that overcame any kind of fear that I had. I was never scared of heights, but I was just so like attracted to not hurting myself and falling into thin air that I was like, this is the best sport that I could possibly fall into. So it was pretty fun for a while, and then I started grad school and I didn't do it as much, but I would still love to like get out there and start again because I miss the feeling. I miss that feeling.
Wow, that is so insane for me to hear you say, where I'm like, oh my gosh. Although I have sprained my ankle multiple times in gymnastics and stuff, and I never thought of it that way. It's like, okay, like I'm not going to make impact, you know? And I talk a lot about that with my husband. Like, what are we going to do to stay active that's lower impact to keep our bodies moving, especially in our field of work? Like, you know,
Yeah.
we're active. But I love how you like spun it of using like the fear of hurting yourself to find an alternative, right? Like some people could be crippled by that fear and say, you know what, I'm out of this. I'm just not going to be active, or I'll, find something else. But you stayed in the community and went 50 or 60 feet up between cliffs. Oh my gosh, so cool. And like, I think the reason I wanted to put this in here too is just so like, I think people that get into those niches of like intense sports, like you bring a certain energy to what you do, right? Like it's like you go all in. It's like I'm here and I'm here for it. So that's kind of why I wanted to add it, because I've always gotten that vibe from you, and I see you putting it into your work and everything you're creating now. So awesome.
Thank you.
But
I'm a proponent of moving in any way, shape, or form you can.
yeah, I'm about that too. All that vestibular and prop, like we all need it. Yeah, 100%. So great. All right. We've got two more questions. I almost don't want it to end. Maybe we just actually need to hang out in person and not
Yeah.
through here. Go actually grab coffee in real life. Okay, so I ask everyone this. Our whole thing is like helping individuals rise and shine as their best self, not changing who you are, but just like finding that inner you. So, what are some things that allow you to rise and shine?
We touched on it, but the more I can get outside, the more I find myself or come back to myself. And recently, having finished grad school, I just started driving. Before, I would be crippled by this fear of traveling solo. And this was during grad school. So it was a really weird like pocket of 3 years where I would go outside and I would feel guilty, or I was like misprioritizing my time. And the second it ended, I was suddenly overcome with like a renewed independence and was just like, nope, I'm driving 4 hours solo and I'm going outside and I'm going to ski or I'm going to go climbing. And it was just like coming home. So I am doing my best to now journal and like voice record those feelings when I feel them so that it's easier to come back to and recognize like, no, you need this. Like, don't think that you're misprioritizing your life in any kind of way, or if if you have all these obligations and expectations stacked up on one plate, just like have a whole separate plate for what is you. And for me, that is moving, that's being active outside.
Yeah, yeah. I like you saying misprioritizing, I could relate to so much. Like it's crazy how much I will like guilt trip myself, right? Of like, you shouldn't be doing this right now. There's so many other things you need to be doing for sunrise or for your house or your husband or your fur babies, whatever it is. And it's so, I don't know why, it's just so easy to be like, oh, don't need that. Like the things for us, right? It's like those are the first things that fall off our like must-do lists. I love the idea of journaling and then voice memos. Like I use voice memos for work stuff all the time, but never for my own self-reflection. So I might steal that idea. Something
Game,
else what?
game changer.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I also think like hearing your own voice and like the excitement behind it, or the groundedness, like whatever the activity is really cool too, and remind you like, oh, I want to get back to that headspace. A little trick that I do more for like grounding or like when I'm nervous about something or I'm feeling overwhelmed is to pair it to some like physical action. Forget where I learned this. It may have been I took like an NLP course a while ago, which is neuro linguistic programming and like how we think about our thoughts and all that. So anyway, you find something small that you could do with your body in those really grounded or like really in your body moments, and you do it then, and then when you feel out of your body, you do that same motion, like to ground yourself. Mine is, I'll tell the world, now you'll know when I'm ungrounded. But like I rub my thumbnail, like a real simple, like you might see my arm down by my side. I'm just like, that's how you know I'm either really happy and like enjoying my time with you, or like shit's hitting the fan up here and I'm trying to like bring it back down. So another little tidbit. And I work with my clients on that too. Like, how can we find something to like attach to this really great, calm, regulated moment so that other moments we could kind of come back to that. So I think it's all around the same line. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. And being vulnerable to share that, like not everyone shares our hard times or like yeah, everything's always a highlight reel. So thank
Hmm.
you.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, this is kind of like me passing the floor to you. If there's anything else you want to share, and then like where everyone could find you and follow your content.
Yeah. So I am Olivia, and I started an advocacy business called Base Camp Advocacy. I'm here in San Diego, and if you search Base Camp Advocacy, it will come up hopefully in Google, Insta. I think there's a Facebook page where, the contact button is open. Always available just as like a 30-minute free consultation. I want to hear what you're working through or what your family's next goals are, or if you have no idea where to start in the IEP 504, what have you process. I'm here to help and to learn more about me. I'm open to, the same free consultation. I will take any questions. My personal Insta is definitely not a highlight reel, so it
Love it. Keeping it
just
real.
pretty of my life, my journey with um, chronic illness, working with autism advocacy, my sister and siblings, and everything that I hold dear to my heart. So um, I'm an open book. I try to be as upfront and honest as possible. I find that is just like a lighter way to live for me personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I hold that space for everyone as well.
Yeah. I can attest to that. I agree. I feel that from you. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, hopefully one day we could get together and not
Yeah,
jump off cliffs and stuff, but take a walk by the ocean. I don't know.
that's a perfect spot for a cliff jump.
Okay, of course, you would find somewhere to do it.
It is
Uh,
illegal. Anything in San Diego over 5 feet tall into the ocean is not allowed, but
wow.
there are a few really great popular spots that are so.
All right, I'll watch you. I'll cheer you on from the cliff or in the water. I'm fine in either. It's just
Yeah.
the in between. Oh man, sweet. All right, you have a great Friday, an awesome
Like,
weekend, and we'll talk
thank
soon.
you so much.
Of course. Thank you. See ya.